is Stacy Jensen. I'm a big fan of Especially for Athletes. I grew up in West Jordan, Utah, played basketball at BYU, and then coached at BYU for 9 years. So athlete at heart, still trying to be a little bit of an athlete, but love the principles at Especially for Athletes and excited to support them and all that they do for the athletes. The first principle that I wanted to talk about is actually the second principle of Especially for Athletes, and that's compete without contempt. I have had some great examples of this in my life. Going back to 6th grade, I went to an elementary school where I found out that I would actually be changing schools for middle school. School boundaries changed, and so I got sent to a middle school where I didn't know anybody. And during my 2 years there, I was actually able to make a lot of great friends. Some of those through athletics, and some of these friends were actually a year older. And so when 8th grade rolled around, these friends started playing for the high school that I would be going to. And about partway through the season, again, school boundaries changed. I learned I'd be going to actually the rival high school. And so an interesting experience where I have a great group of friends. We're excited to play high school basketball together. And then overnight, I just became the rival. I became the outsider a little bit. And in some cases, some of them looked at me as an outsider, as that rival instantly. And so things changed. And as the school year went on, and the next year I went to the new school to then go to a different high school. There was one friend who continued to stay in touch, who continued to cultivate that relationship. And we stayed friends all throughout high school. And she continued to play on the basketball team. I played on the basketball team. We played against each other. But every time we would go to play against each other, she would reach out. She'd wish me luck. She cared about who I was as an individual. She cared about how I performed as an athlete. And she was a great example to me of, even though we were rivals, we could compete without contempt. And those were some of my favorite memories of being able to go toe-to-toe on the basketball court and be able to want to get the best out of each other, to want to compete, to want to see each other succeed, and to, at the end, no matter the outcome, to have great respect for each other and to want the best for each other. And throughout this process, I was actually able to make another great friend on this rival team. And to this day, those two friends continue to be great friends that I have today. And ironically, have been able to coach their son and their daughter as well, as I've done some additional coaching as well. Now, why does that matter? Going back to high school, thinking about all the things that you go through and how people can feel like they're on the outside, or how all of a sudden you're friends one day and the next day you're rival. Well, to me, this was impactful because of how she treated me. She never looked at me any different, even though maybe some of the other kids in our friends group did. But she always was a great example of what mattered most, and that was the friendship. And that was who I was as an individual, nothing to do with who I was as an athlete. But that mattered because the friendship mattered more. And those are things as I go throughout my life and thinking about, as I've competed, and I'm highly competitive and I want to win, but what matters the most are the friendships, are the relationships that we make through athletics and through the other relationships we have in our lives. So it was a great influence on me of how I interact with others, how I treat others, whether we're best friends or whether we're rivals, whatever it might be, but we have relationships and we work to cultivate those.